Okay, so without further ado, let's now add our dire sharer. So again, in our community, it's always Christmas, and of course, the best gift, 'di ba? The best gift is always education, no? So with education, being educated, you can reach more, 'di ba? Than a physical thing. So here's our never-lasting continuous gift to all, which is education. Hoping you will learn something new from this today's session. And again, our knowledge sharer, diba? Knowledge giver is Sir Architect Aristotle Basa. Sir Aris, we are now live.
Hi, Joe Mark. Hi, Nelsie, and to the thousands na nakakonect ngayon. Ano? Tama
Yep.
ba yung ano ko? Tama ba yung assumption ko? Thousands na nakakonect ngayon. Siguro naman, no?
Yes.
Kasi malawak
Yes,
naman yung
we are.
platform natin.
Yep. This is shown through thousands of our followers and partners. So again,
Yeah.
Sir Aris, for those who are not familiar with you, siguro first question, nasan ka daw ngayon, sir?
Ito lang, sa tabi-tabi. Okay. Well, I'm an architect by profession. Siyempre, uh, 20 years ago, we had a chance employed dito sa Qatar. No? Dito tayo sa Qatar, where the 2022 World Cup will be held. Sabi niya. I'm working for a
Ayan.
construction company as a BIM manager.
Ayan, so apologies na lang po, no? Nasa other part of the world si Sir Aris, kaya may konting stutter. Yes, Sir Aris, go ahead po.
Yan, actually, hindi naman dahil baka isipin ng mga tao, low-tech ng Qatar. Kasi na yung internet. No? So I'm in Qatar, pero nasa gitna kami ng dagat eh. Yung project namin nasa gitna ng dagat. So it's a bit difficult in terms of internet connection. So I have to connect through my mobile para lang uh, makasama natin kayo ngayong araw na to. Yan, narinig ko si Hansay ko, wala na ko yan. And mga BIM guys natin dyan sa Pilipinas.
Ayan, mag-sharer din yan si Sir Hans. Ayan, so okay. Without further ado, i-share ko na sir yung yung uh, slides mo. So we're seeing it
Ayan,
now.
okay, yes. This presentation will be a summary of how BIM Execution Plan document is composed of. Okay? So for everyone's knowledge, and I know most of you knows what a BIM Execution Plan is. So it is a document which is similar to BIM Project Management Plan, BIM Project Execution Plan, Project Safety Plan, and all those plans in the construction uh, sector. No? Nandiyan din. Meron ding mga tinatawag na BIM Execution Plans for the authors, from the BIM authors, yung mga designers. Ngayon, mostly, itong ito-present natin is a BIM Execution Plan for construction projects. Although we will be touching a little bit on BIM Execution Plan for the BIM authors or yung mga designers natin. Okay? So if you can see in the title, I said BIM Execution Plan, BIM success equals to the key. No? This is the key to BIM success, yung BIM Execution Plan natin. And of course, a properly executed BIM Execution Plan is the real key to a BIM project success. Kasi you can have a plan as much as you like, but eventually it is the execution of the plan and the implementation which will dictate the success of a BIM project. So for in case you don't know yet, and in case you haven't subscribed, yan, meron po tayong BIM Smart with Aris Basa. This is my YouTube channel. Hopefully you can subscribe. Tuloy tayo on our next slide. Of course, if you can see, I've quoted, of course, Benjamin Franklin. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Ganun lang naman kasimple. That's how simple any project would be, and any endeavor in that matter. If you don't plan, how can you uh, how can you uh, how can you expect to succeed? Huh? So that means a good BIM execution plan, as I've said earlier, a properly executed BIM execution plan equates to a BIM's project success. To the to the uh, this will be for the benefit of not only the owners but also the builders or the contractors, and of course the designers as well. Let's define BIM execution plan. So most of us, when we need to define something, we will always sort to Google. So this is what Google says what BIM execution plan is. So it is a comprehensive document that helps the project team identify and execute the role of BIM in the various phases of construction management. And it even said properly built BEPs help keep things on track by focusing on the important details, not necessarily micro details, but it will save the team hours, and not just hours, days, and even months of time while using while following a uh, properly outlined BIM execution plan. Let's continue. Let's not be unfair. Wag lang yung sa Google, yung tingnan natin. So if you can see, I've referenced the U.S. General Services Administration, no, stateside. They define BIM execution plan as a foundational framework to ensure successful deployment of advanced design technologies on a BIM-enabled project. The BEP, as it is called, is about optimizing work and model flow across the project. The key is good planning of the design to engineering to construction process to minimize downstream surprises, rework, redundancies, or gaps in the flow of information. Okay, so well said. Um, from the U.S. General Services Administration. Let's continue. Of course, if you have reference US, you have to reference UK as well. Okay, so according to the UK BIM Alliance, which is the main BIM BIM body in the United Kingdom or England, the BIM execution plan is a technical response developed by the project delivery team. So a project delivery team is composed of one, the owner or the owner representative. Second is the consultant or the consultants can be the program management consultant, and there could be another construction management consultant. The third one is the builder or the main contractor. So it addresses the requirements set out in the employer's information requirements, EIR, and confirms the supply chain's capabilities on how and when the project information is to be prepared, by whom, and using what standards and rules in the project. Okay. So it is mentioned that further that it is referencing to PAS 1192. It is now called the PS 1192. And it further says that the structure of a BAP will usually be based on an established templates. And a keyword here is templates. Usually in a project that I've handled in the past few years, normally the client is client or the consultant is providing the template to be used for the project. But in certain cases, I've had projects as well where the template is not available or is not provided by the consultant or the owner. The contractor then would be free to select an available template, which can be found online. No? Nandyan yung, there is the BIM Execution Plan or BIM, yeah, that's BIM Execution Plan template provided by the University of Pennsylvania, University of Penn. There's another one from the BIM Forum. So there's so many online templates that are available for the BIM Execution Plan. It's just a matter of um, tailor fitting it for what the project really needs. Let's continue. We are now in the seventh slide, and hopefully um, we'll be done in about 20 minutes. I have about 32 slides to present here. Some parts of the slides is not showing. Maybe Joe Mark can full screen the the slide at this time. Can you full screen it, Joe Mark? Mhm. Hindi pa rin makita.
Uh,
But anyway, so these are the
yep.
contents of a BIM execution plan. Starts with the terms and abbreviations. And of course, you'll have to properly introduce what this document is. Again, emphasize on document. This, we're talking about a document. And you'll have the contents, management of the BIM, implementation strategies. You have the QA/QC procedures. You have the deliverable list. You would have the hardware and software detailed in the document, and you have, of course, the appendices. So it is like a Bible or a collection of documents that is your reference in your um, BIM project. So let's start with the contents, the terms and abbreviations. If you're a BIM guy, you've been working on a BIM project for quite some times now, you must be familiar with these terms. No? So let's say, for example, the asset is the useful or valuable quality of a project, of an object. You have the construction documents. You know the meaning of these documents. Usually, architects and engineers who have been working in construction are very much familiar with the terms that will be used in the project and the terms that will be shown in the BIM execution plan document. You know, the abbreviations will be there. Add BIM, BEP. Sometimes BEP, BIM execution plan, is also called BXP. It depends on the country. Sometimes it's called BIM PMP, BIM Project Management Plan. But all the same. These are all the same documents that are comprising of all of the strategies, the relevant documents, the standards that are that or will be used in the execution of the BIM for a construction project. Okay, let's proceed. So, in the introduction, the purpose of the document will be clearly identified. Normally, the document is saying that the BEP is referring to certain standards. If they are referring to the British standards or they are referring to the American standards, it is already shown in the document. The document structure gives an overall guidance on the BIM execution plan and uh, and the scope of works to be carried out in the project. Sometimes, if the BIM works will be done only for the MEP part of the project, it is clearly stated there. And for the architectural and structural, sometimes it might be done uh, in a separate stage of the project. So these things are very clear, so that the construction process using BIM is properly guided. So of course, the project schedules and milestones are shown, and of course, the project information. The project information contains the location and the technical description of the project. For example, if it's a hotel project, it will contain how many hotel rooms, how much is the area for the plazas or the retails, and if it has beaches, it will show how much, how big is the beach area, and maybe it can show also the capacity of the hotel. Of course, the owner, the location, the project start date, the completion date will have to be included in the project. Additionally, some renderings can be shown there to show the external renderings, the interior renderings, and of course a map showing the location of the project. Let us proceed. Yeah, in the content definition, it is important to define um, the specific terms that are included in the BIM process. No? So you'll see that when we say document, it means this document, which is the BIM Execution Plan. And when we say project, the project is referring to the project that you are working on the actual project. And further, these are the other terms that are usually used in um, or present or can be shown must be shown in the contents of BIM execution plan. Okay, in BIM management, as you all know, BIM management is a process that includes that is depending on the structure of the BIM execution for the project. For example, the client reserves the right to choose the BIM service provider, then that will be a totally different setup. Now, the setup that I'm showing you right now is the client allows the main contractor or the builder to select or to hire a full-time staff for the BIM project. So this is a good opportunity for BIM professionals to say many job openings will be available for a specific project. So that uh, will include the BIM manager, of course, then there are BIM lead, the coordinator, engineers, modelers, and other can be BIM detailers as well. I was not able to include it here. So BIM, let's just define a little bit on the BIM manager. So the BIM manager usually leads the BIM team, and he is managing the level of BIM development, all levels of BIM development. We will be able to produce the general BIM implementation plan. Let me just insert this that for the BIM project management or BIM execution plan, usually for construction projects, there are two types of BIM execution plan. One is the pre-contract BIM execution plan. Let me go back to my third slide. Yeah, here it is mentioned in the UK BIM Alliance definition of BIM that it is typically submitted in two stages. Initially, to confirm approach and capability, which is referred to as the pre-contract BIM execution plan. So this is usually sent out. The request for a pre-contract BIM execution plan is usually sent out by the building owner or the consultant to the various companies who will be tendering for the project, who will be bidding for the project. So usually this BIM execution plan, this pre-contract BIM execution plan, is a short document, not as detailed as the post-contract BIM execution plan. In my company, what I normally do is I summarize what will be our approach in the uh, execution of the BIM project. Usually, this will be um, several paragraphs, which is 2 or 3 pages. That would be enough as a pre-contract BIM execution plan. You just have to make sure on how you will be able to execute BIM for the project that you are bidding. And then, if you win the project, what the BIM execution plan that you will be doing is now the post-contract BIM execution plan, which we are discussing right now. Let's go back. Let's move ahead. I mean, to our roles and responsibilities. We also have what we call BIM leads. Sometimes the BIM leads are based on the disciplines. So there can be a BIM lead for the architectural, structural, interior design, sometimes for the landscape, and of course for the MEP. Similarly, the BIM lead sometimes would always have his BIM coordinator. The BIM coordinator is a guy who can be able to coordinate all of the so he all of the uh, all of the disciplines. So he sometimes called us to uh, the he's like the big support. He's the big right hand man of the BIM manager. This is when the project have enough budget to hire a coordinator and a BIM manager as well. In the projects that we have, usually uh, we don't have the BIM coordinator anymore. The BIM manager is working as the BIM coordinator as well. So you have the BIM engineers. So the BIM engineers are basically they are the discipline engineers who knows how the process of how the BIM process is executed. And you have the BIM modelers. These are the BIM guys who are hands-on in producing the models and also hands-on in making the necessary shop drawings and as-built drawings for the BIM project. And in the BIM management part of the BIM execution plan, you always have the meeting schedules. What meetings are done on a weekly basis, what meetings are done on a fortnight or bi-weekly basis, and we can have periodic meetings, can be monthly and bi-monthly or whatever. So that is the contents that are to be shown for the BIM management part of the BIM execution plan. Let's continue. So we have also what we call the BIM implementation plan. So let me just read the contents of this. BIM implementation requires specific steps in establishing BIM on the project and describes how the employer's BIM requirements will be adapted while considering project-specific boundary conditions. The objective of this is to develop the BIM model up to LOD 400. So this is specific on the project. For the reference project that I use for this presentation, the the task of the BIM team is to develop up to LOD 400 and 500, meaning we already have received a LOD 300 model from the designer. So in cases, in many cases, specifically there in the Philippines where BIM is not yet widely used, there can be cases that the consultant or the owner will be handing over CAD files for the project. And then now the task of the BIM team would be to develop LOD 300 models, 350, 400, and up to 500. So mas maraming trabaho for the BIM team in cases that the BIM was not used in the design stage of the project. So as part of the BIM implementation plan, we have to be very clear on the contents, meaning for the settings that will be used for the project. We have to identify the language, if it's going to be done in English, if it's going to be done in Urdu, in Arabic or whatever, it has to be done. It has to be clearly stated in the project language. There's the splash screen. Ano ba yung splash screen? Splash screen is usually the first image that you see when you open a BIM or a Revit project. Okay? Usually it will contain the logos of the owner, logos of the project, logo of the consultant, and logos of the contractor, and then it will contain several information such as the model file name, the, the Revit version, etc., etc. So for the title blocks, standard title blocks has to be uh, issued, issued and approved along with the BIM execution plan and the project units. So you can see on the table as in the slide, the the units to be used are millimeters for lengths. Sometimes in the Philippines, we are using meters for lengths. And for the area, you have to say what is the, the unit to be used, and for the volume, angle, etc., etc. And of course, we'll have the project origin, location, and orientation. This is something that you already know. And the unique reference system is supporting the project origin, location, and orientation. The URS file is the model file that contains the origin and location of the actual project. This is being shared project-wide so that we will be on the same location, correct geographical location as we prepare the project. Para walang naliligaw. No? You are, for example, the project is in Quezon City, in Project 5 Quezon City, street uh, street Bakiran Street, number 10 Bakiran Street, Project 6 or Project 5 Quezon City. It has to be properly detailed. Uh, and then we'll have modeling regulations for BIM. Usually, this is following the standards of Revit, and not only the Revit standards and templates are used, also for the Navisworks template. As we all know, or most of you who are connected here, you know that Navisworks is the primary software being used in coordination part of a BIM project. Okay, let's proceed. Yeah, this is a map showing how we are doing the collaboration of the project. So usually when a work in progress model is approved, then it will be shared to the various uh, entities, the consultant and the owner. If they authorize it, then the document will be published. So the published document is usually the document that will be used in the construction. So after it has been verified, it will be archived and will be used as built for further reference. This is another process showing the model-based information delivery cycle. It's a 17-step process. This document is taken from the BIM forum. So um, they might have a newer version of this, which is combining other um, aspects or other processes. But so far, this is what I'm using in my project. So we are also defining the contents of the project browser for the project. We have to be very clear on what will be the name of the floor plans that will be used. There will be standard naming conventions for the drawings and for the views and even for the sheets. Now, this has to be very clear at the beginning of the project so that we don't waste so much time in renaming views and renaming sheets. in the later part of the project. And most BIM managers and BIM experts are using Dynamo in Dynamo scripts in preparing these documents, because usually this could be a very detailed document that is better done using Excel, and then plugging in using incorporating it in Revit using the Dynamo plug. For those who are Dynamo users, you are very well um, familiar with this process. Yan. Also, in the BIM execution plan, we have to identify and have a clear definition of how models are linked in the project. For example, for the architectural model, you will know what are the models that you need to link for you to have a proper architectural document. So, yung facade model, you need to include it. You have the architectural model and furniture model, and so forth and so on. Similar to, uh, uh, let's say, for the mechanical, you need to put on the HVAC model if you want to see uh, the engineering design of the project. Okay, so this is a BIM implementation strategy. It's divided into two workflows. One is shown here on the construction stage, and the other one is during the as-built stage. These workflows are suggested by the BIM forum as well, but depending on the project, these workflows can be modified, can be simplified, so that the work can be straightforward. If there are less BIM staff and less construction management team on the project, then these workflows can be very simple. So also in the implementation strategy, we need to define the 3D coordination and the class detection process. Let me just read what is shown in your screen. Although the design authoring process aims and producing consistent design through avoiding clashes by establishing a collaboration environment among design teams, 3D design coordination is still required. Of course, it is we are not perfect, no? Doing the BIM, the people who are doing the BIM are still human beings. We are prone to mistakes. So we still need to talk. We need to collaborate. We need to tell this guy that you have to adjust. Have to tell me if I have some mistake so that I can adjust. This is the collaboration process within the project. So the goal of the process is to eliminate the major system conflicts. You know. For example, you don't want to build the the curtain wall, which is uh, inside of the, which is clashing with your slab and with your columns. These major clashes have to be very well defined. You don't want your AC ducts to be hitting your columns. You want them to be properly mapped out in the three-dimensional model. So this is a Navisworks file flow diagram. Most of you who are Navisworks guys knows how this works. Usually, the Navisworks file is a file that is derived from the Revit model, because as you know, the Navisworks software is not a BIM offering software. Just to clarify, for those who are beginners in BIM, there are two types of BIM software, major types. One is the BIM authoring software, which is the likes of Revit, then the ArchiCAD. You also have AE Crossing, and among others. These are the tools that you use in creating the model. The other one is Navisworks, which is a viewer for the project. Not just the viewer, it is also used in clash detection. So it is also used in quantity survey and used in preparation of the uh, 4D model, or what we call as the sequencing, the construction sequencing model, among others. Let's continue. So this is example of site utilization using the Revit model. This model is done, or this image is produced using the Navisworks software, whereas we are defining, we are using the model to help us during construction time. We can define the best location for the tower cranes. We can define the best locations where to place the site facilities, the temporary site facilities, and we can plan where to put the boundary fences and the temporary roadworks using the BIM software. This has to be also defined inside the BIM execution plan document. So, as I've said earlier, for the simulation, or the, the sequencing, there is a process, and it is shown it is shown in this process. The 4D process requires two things. One is the model, which is developed by the BIM team, and the second one is the program, or the Primavera software, or uh, the planning information. It can be a Primavera software. It can be uh, a Microsoft project software that clearly defines the stages of the project and what are to be completed during that stage of the project. And all of this will be incorporated using the Navisworks software, and we'll be able to produce on a monthly or a weekly basis the actual construction progress and what we call as the planned progress for the project. I think I have an image showing an example of that. Yes. So these are just some of the examples of a 4D submission. And usually in a 4D submission, this is submitted as a video file. It's a video file showing how the project has progressed from day zero up to the current time, and how the project will progress from the current time up to the completion date of the project. Yes, of course, we'll have QA and QC procedures for the BIM execution plan. So this is a QA QC project process that is usually done by the BIM team. No? This is not under the QA QC team of the project. The application of QA QC reviews on the created BIM will be applied to ensure the compliance with the defined BIM standards, and with the use of 3D design coordination to ensure the best possible coordination between the trades. The documentation of the 3D design procedures simplifies the traceability of the process and provides a structured archive. So it is very important that we have these QA/QC procedures, and the QA/QC procedures will will be defined in the document. So you will be having all the checklists. You'll see the compliance of each part of the model, and then that is also where the BIM manager or the BIM coordinator can create the comments, and this can be further improved by our BIM authoring team. Yeah. So in the QC procedures, each model shall pass an internal quality check before proceeding to the construction team. So we want to make sure that all our models And all the drawings, two-dimensional drawings, construction drawings that we will be producing are properly checked before we give them to the construction team. Otherwise, it is going to be a big problem. Usually, our construction team will build as they receive. We don't want to create issues for the team, for the construction team as well. We want to work on a properly and well coordinated manner. So this slide is showing you uh, the checks and processes that is being done on the project. Usually the visual checks and interference checks are done by the BIM manager and using Revit and Navisworks software on a continuous basis. So since these are live documents, the BIM manager is a busy guy doing all the checks for all of the projects. Ito pa, this is can say the end product of a BIM execution plan are the deliverables. This is where the BIM team is judged. You should be able to deliver on time and uh, with the with the specified and with the expected detail and quality. So this is where the models are being submitted in at this in the BIM execution plan stage. We are showing what will be submitted. Now, as the project progress, we will be agreeing with the consultant depending on the project plan, the timetable of the project, on when we will be submitting the projects, on when and even how we will be submitting the project. If we will be saying that the initial model will be submitted through the cloud, it will be defined there. No submission through email or by on the USB disk will be done. Everything will be done through the cloud. This has to be defined in the deliverables list. It is also very important to include if there are renderings to be done. It has to be important that these renderings are enumerated. Why? Because as you know, renderings takes time. If you commit yourself that you will be commit to the project that you will be submitting 10 renderings for each of the buildings, if you have many buildings in one project, then you have to be able to manage that properly. As we know, high quality renderings takes time. In other projects, and actually in the last two projects that I am working on, we have what we call the asset information model. So this is a document that is very detailed and includes all of the necessary properties of each of the part of the building. For example, up to the ironmongery of a door, and the locks. We need to identify what is are the properties of uh, this element, on who is the supplier of this element, and how much does it cost, and how many spare parts should be included for each of these parts. These are very detailed documents that are being done at the tail end or at the end of the project during the closeout. So those are asset information models where each part of the element of the building are having those asset tags. For example, a furniture will have its own asset tag. Uh, Mechanical equipment will have its own asset tag. Um, um, an electrical equipment, plumbing equipment will all have its own asset tags. These are combined in what we call the COVID documents. So hopefully we are good. I don't know how much time I've spent already. Do we still have time, Joe Mark? We still have just a few
Absolutely,
more
sir.
slides before we complete. Meron pa ba tayong question and answer portion?
Yes, sir. After neto, we want you to focus muna on your presentation. But after this, we're encouraging
Okay.
everyone talaga to ask questions. Okay, sir, we
Okay.
still
Thank
have
you very
time.
much.
Go ahead po, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Um, just a few more minutes. This is now the software and hardware part. As you know, the software has to be defined in the BIM execution plan. If you say that you will be using Revit 2018 version, you will be using the Revit 2018 version from the beginning to the end of the project. If you'll be using 2020 or 2022, it has to be written in the document because as we know, um, Revit is not backwards compatible and buying software is not cheap. No? But the good thing is, as far as I know, if you buy Autodesk software, it will give you the opportunity to download at least three versions. No? For example, if I purchase the 2020 version, I can download 2021 and 2022 as well, up to three versions of the software. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. For the hardware, of course, siyempre gusto natin supercomputer. No? But ideally, these are just the average computers that can be used. You have an i7 multi-core computer with at least uh, how many RAM nakalagay dito? 64 GB RAM. These are not average. These are not your average computer na pala. These are your average computer for the BIM guy, not for the uh, normal person, mga pang gamer na to. No? You ideally, if you say you have a gamer laptop, okay na yan. That would be good for use in the BIM process. Yeah, and of course, you'll be having all these appendices as your reference. You need you to identify your organizational chart and on who are the owners, who are the people in in the in the diagram in the organizational chart. And contact details, the splash screen sample should be there. The model content requirement should be there. Usually, including the manual flow chart, the element interaction matrix, class detection templates, QAQC checklists, model audit checklist, um, BIM submission checklist, and you have a title block example. So these are usually included in the BIM document as an appendix. These are very detailed documents that are constantly updated during the course of the project. And for everyone's information and for everyone's knowledge, the BIM document is what we call as a live document. So even if you have been given an approved without comment at the beginning of a project, the consultant or the owner can still insert more information, can still comment on the project, and your BIM execution plan can still be modified as the project goes. For example, you started the BIM execution plan saying that we will be doing the everything from the LOD 300, 400 to 500. Now, for certain cases, some of the some of the process can be skipped because of the construction concerns. So modification and changes are always imminent. Sabi nga, there's only one thing which is constant, and that is change. So this document is always um, subject to change. And I think that's all that I've been able to share to you. Sana, I hope that you were able to brush up on your knowledge if you've been doing BIM execution plan before and you haven't done it for a while. And I hope I was able to give you a fresh knowledge for those who haven't done a BIM execution plan.
Ayan. So, once more, the floor is now open for your comments and questions, suggestions. Okay, siguro Sir Aris, ang first question natin ay for the young ones, no? I want to be a BIM professional. How should I start?
Oh, start from the beginning, di ba? Every race starts from the start line. So the start line will have to be first finish your education, no? Finish your college degree, and while you are preparing for your board exam, isama nyo na yung mastery of the software. No? But I think the young guys now, as early as their second year in college, nag-BIM na. No? Nag-BIM na. And that is very good. But of course, it is different when you are working on a professional level. If you can work as a BIM modeler for an architectural company or engineering company, that is the best way for you to learn. No? You can also work for BIM service providers where you will have the opportunity to learn the software. No? And usually the BIM service providers and even the architectural engineering companies, they have senior guys there that you will be able to learn from. So that's the best way. And of course, you have to, once you are confident of your skills, take the Autodesk certification exam. No? So once you are an ACP, you have the enough document that you are saying that you are a BIM professional because you are certified by Autodesk or another software for that matter. But we're not talking about other softwares now. I think eventually Revit and Autodesk is the main mover of BIM. So we highly suggest use Revit in your um, BIM journey. I hope I was able to answer that question.
Another question, sir, to Sir Aris is ano yan how is your ano daw po, no? How did you end up in Qatar? What's your OFW journey daw? How did you
It's a
start out
matter
your
of,
career? Paano napunta ng Qatar?
yun, oo nga. Actually, it's a matter of luck and also perseverance and career decision. So during the earlier part of my career, nakapasa ko lang actually ng board exam back in 2000. I was already exploring opportunities to work overseas. So I keep on sending applications and asking people if they have an opportunity to work. Usually, it's the Middle East that gives you opportunities back then. Pero ngayon yata, andyan na yung mga New Zealand, yung Australia, and the nearby countries, Singapore and Malaysia for architects and engineers. On my part, I had a call. Uh, I received a phone call, through a friend, asking someone to work as an architect here in Qatar. And not just, wala pang BIM doon, year 2000. Meron ng BIM, pero hindi pa gumagamit dito sa Middle East and even back here in the Philippines. So I started to work as a modeler, as an architectural modeler, miniature modeler, yung actual models. So gumagawa kami nun ng mga actual models using AutoCAD, and we have these machines, yung mga router na later on were developed, and we were already using laser cutters back then. So that's my modeling journey from scale models, miniature models, up to 3D models, and now up to BIM, Building Information Model. Next question, please.
Ayan, kay Sir Francisco Baldos. Thank you no for joining us. Sir Aris, is it possible in the BEP software requirements to specify generic BIM authoring software? I think in Philippine government we cannot easily specify branded items for the sake of competition. Thank you.
I think, yeah, sasagutin ko agad to, no? I think the Philippine government is wrong if they say that branded items cannot be specified. It is being done in here in the Middle East. It is being done in the States. It is being done in UK. Why will we not do it in the Philippines? No, because there are already studies and there are already proofs that which of the software functions properly, is the most efficient software. So I think if we have regulations in the government, these regulations have to be amended. This has to be amended. Not because I'm speaking in the Autodesk community right now, but this is based on experience only. Based on experience. Punta ka sa Japan, gumagamit ng Revit. Punta ka sa US, Revit ginagamit yun. Sa UK, Revit. Australia, Revit. So bakit Pilipinas, sabihin mo, generic? So if it is generic, if I put on others BIM software, because there are copycat softwares, no? That are having the functionalities similar, very similar to Revit, at the fraction of the price. But of course, these are not tested. These softwares are not tested. So that I don't know. This is my opinion, but I believe um, it has to be defined on what the software is and is the what is the version to be used in order to have a proper execution of the project. I hope that opens up more debate.
Okay, another question. Ito sir, thank you Sir Jervy Arellano. Siguro no, in a few sentences, how to become a BIM professional? General question from Sir Jervy Arellano.
Yeah, I think I was able to answer this earlier. To be a BIM professional, you have to be certified, take courses, and to be certified, you have to take courses and work on an actual project so that you can pass the ACP certification exams. And there are other certification exams not based in the Philippines, but these are very expensive certification bodies. And we can say now that the Autodesk certification is the cheapest certification way of being a certified BIM professional.
From the young ones, why architecture daw sir did you took up in college? Who inspired you?
But actually, what inspired me is originally I wanted to be uh, a Disney cartoonist. Huh? Or yung mga sa DC, nag-drawing ng mga comics. But I found out that I have a better opportunity to earn if I study architecture. And in addition, back in high school, meron na kaming architectural drafting course, no? Third year and fourth year of high school back then, equivalent to grade 9 and 10. Ngayon, ano? So I had a very good background, and so I got to know the opportunities available for architects.
Sir Aris, I'm watching from Italy. Ayan, Azin Wizama, thank you for joining us.
Wow.
How
Thank you
will
very
the
much.
BIM specialist market be in the next 5 years, in your point of view?
Yes. Hi, Azinwi. How are you out there in Italy? Hopefully you are safe and hopefully you are busy with your BIM project. I think it's very promising. 5 years ago, it was projected that the BIM market, BIM market, I'm saying that all of the BIM professionals will not only double but uh, will multiply 8 times. That was 5 years ago. And further, now that most of the countries are pushing for BIM implementation for their government projects and large projects, I think and I believe this is backed by information that it is a very high demand. There's a high demand in for BIM professionals, BIM modelers, and and I think engineers would still be engineers, of course, but engineers and architects would have to have that. You have to be equipped with BIM training already, so that you can continue to compete in the market. So, with that being said, I hope I was able to answer Azimbi's question. Thank you very much for tuning in, Azimbi.
Ayan, another question. Thank you again for joining us, Sir Francis Baldos. Ayan. Sir, where do you think the Philippine government should start in order for it to transition in BIM, in its processes, in its projects? Thank you.
Yeah, the Philippine government can simply actually model, uh, take the UK model. Actually, now the UK is very advanced in BIM, but if you look at history, way back 10 years ago, they did not start where they are now. They started to implement projects on, you can say, level 1 BIM. And then they moved to level 2, and now they are pushing for the level 3 BIM. Level 1 BIM is basically doing the coordinated uh, model in a project specific, in one team only. And level 2 BIM, you're already using the cloud to coordinate with each other and everything. And of course, level 3 BIM is more complex. But we can use the model of the UK where they have mandated all government projects to be executed in BIM. It is very easy. It has to be mandated by the government because the government is the client. The government is paying for the project. You can mandate. You can tell your contractors. You can tell your consultants that you have to use BIM if you want to join, if you want to participate in this project. That's what I'm actually saying this in my video vlogs in my YouTube channel, that it has to be started from the government or from the uh, professional bodies that that BIM has to be mandated. There has to be like a regulation to tell them that it is required. So because if it is not required, then the contractors, the builders, the consultants will not be using it because it is high expense process. If they are already used to using things using two dimension, then they will continue with what they are doing. But if we implement as the client, it will be done. We can use the UK model.
Follow-up question from Sir Francis Baldos. Should it focus in adopting ISO 19650 right away? Or should Philippine government focus on creating its own BIM standards? Is there an
Yes,
available
thank you.
transition plan? Ayan. where we can pattern?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you, Francis, for actively participating in this discussion. No? Actually, the UK um, government have and the British standards have been developed in years of studies. If we say that we will be using our own standards, it will be a copy paste of what will be happening. So similar to what happened to long time ago. If you are aware of the National Structural Code of the Philippines, this is a copy paste from the US standard and maybe the other standards as well. And it will take years of developing this. So bakit pa tayo magpapakahirap, no? We need to adapt it and maybe we'll have a checklist on this should be adapted at this time and the rest can be adapted after 3 years and maybe another 5 years. There can be we have to have like an implementation plan. Actually, I've already made a proposal to to the United Architects of the Philippines for a BIM implementation, nationwide BIM implementation uh, for the Philippine government. But of course, this will have to go through all the departments because before this can be realized. No? If you are working on a government, if Francis is working in a DPWH or you have any, if you have good relation with some of our uh, decision makers in the government, I would be willing, very much willing to collaborate with you in the department in developing or adapting, not say developing, but adapting the the necessary or the most applicable standard in the implementation of BIM back there in our country. Just an addition, here in Qatar, we have adopted the way the UK did their BIM. So it is a testament that the best way to implement BIM for your project is to adapt a successful model.
From Arnold Santa Rosa. Ayan. I'm using Revit for about 7 years now. Can you please give me advice on how my BIM career will grow more? Thank you.
Ayun, thank you, Arnold. No? So, being an architect and engineer is an advantage for you to start a BIM career. But nonetheless, if you have been working in BIM for the last 7 years, you are very much experienced already na, sa paggamit ng software. So, for you to be able to grow your career more is probably take more online courses in the discipline that you are working on. If, for example, you are working on architectural and structural BIM or mechanical or electrical BIM, then it would be best for you to learn additional knowledge of the engineering or the architecture or the interior design so that it will be added to your credentials.
Okay. Next question from Sir Hans Psycho. When will the BEP be best made? Is it before the project start or after the project had been designed, conceptualized from the design development stage?
Yes, thank you, Hans. No, that's a good question for the benefit of all of the attendees. No? As I said earlier, meron tayong tinatawag na pre-contract BIM execution plan. So this is usually before the start of the project. Before the start of the project, each of the uh, bidders will be asked to prepare a pre-contract BIM execution plan saying, defining, identifying, or detailing the way that BIM will be implemented for the project. And in general, as I can say, if there is no time, if a if a pre-contract BIM execution plan was not part of the project context, then it has to be made during the project award or before the project starts. Usually, we have the planning at the same time of uh, preparation of the uh, construction planning. The BIM execution plan has to be already created. In certain cases, meron tayong mga tinatawag na design BIM. Now, this design BIM is usually done by the designers, the concept designers, who already have their own BIM execution plan company-wide. For example, big companies like EECO, like EECO, big companies like IDAS, IDEA there in the Philippines, they have their own BIM execution plan, but this is design-wise. So they are developing up to probably LOD 300, and in certain cases, they can develop up to LOD 350 or 400 as a shadowing, as an additional service by them. But generally, designers and consultants will work up to the LOD 300 of the project, or as we say in normal, in simpler terms, issued for construction. I hope I was able to answer Hans' question.
How do you see Philippines in comparison to the world in terms of BIM?
Yes, I think I said this in one of my videos that in terms of BIM, we are very advanced. We are very advanced, because I had friends, I've met friends who were already using ArchiCAD and Revit in the Philippines when I was still in college, I believe. No? And then if you would search online of the service providers or professionals who are providing services, BIM services, you will find that these guys are based in the Philippines. But we are working for overseas projects because these overseas projects obviously are paying better, and they are using it because in the Philippines we can say that we are not yet very much advanced or very much using BIM for our projects. So sa ngayon, most of the big projects, government projects like for the Senate building, they are using BIM. For the flag airport, they're using BIM. For the new airport in Bulacan, they will be using BIM. But for privately funded projects, it is a little bit laid back, way back. We are a little bit behind on this. What I was actually advocating is that BIM can be used even for your small projects. No? I'm doing some design as well uh, for friends and families for their residences even small projects, even shops. No? And I use it for my project and because it can be done and it saves you a lot of time. So that being said, in terms of BIM adoption, maybe we are behind. Naunahan na tayo actually sa government implementation. Naunahan na tayo ng Vietnam. Imagine Vietnam. Ilan lang ang architecto engineer sa Vietnam. Baka wala pang 5,000. Dito sa Pilipinas, ang engineers at architects, ilang daan libo, di ba? But they are already implementing it in their country. Vietnam, imagine. If you compare Philippines to Singapore, we are very much behind. Philippines to the Middle East, we are very much behind. So maybe I can say we are like 5 years behind the average of the BIM using countries.
From Sir Lito De Torres, ayan. Thank you, Sir Lito. Ayan, range of salary from BIM modeler, BIMs to BIM specialist to BIM manager in Qatar?
Ito yata ang sagot dito, PM Sen. No, a BIM modeler would have the equivalent salary to uh, a drafts person back then, but a little bit more. And for a BIM manager, you will have an equal capacity of a senior architect or a senior engineer. So I think that would answer the question.
Okay, ayan. So once more, thank you so much, Sir Aris. Again, I'm going to paste down the link to his YouTube channel. So if you want more in-depth uh, learnings about BIM, please subscribe to Sir Aris YouTube channel. Ayan. And for the winners pala, no? So we promised a LinkedIn Learning giveaway. So ang ating mga winners, wala na pong
Mark,
raffle.
can I interrupt you? Mark, interrupt lang kita.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, mag-goodbye na ako siguro. I have another meeting in a few minutes. So thank you everyone and thank you for all the questions. I hope we can work together, collaborate to help our country adapt BIM and this is for the benefit not only of the projects but also for the professionals. Nagkakaroon tayo ng marami pang trabaho. Thank you very much and I hope to see you soon.
Yan. Thank you so much, Sir Aris.